Hey fellas, it's Sushi again. This will be the systems tutorial. I'll try to cover everything you do need to do to create a system. I don't know if I'll get to the base stuff tonight because I don't have a lot of time, but the system stuff I can definitely do to give you guys the right direction. Okay, so I looked at keys files and I converted it into a file that my Freelancer Explorer can use, and I typically use this program a lot just to get orientation of things down, because it's kind of hard to conceptualize things if you don't see it. So I'll be posting this up for you guys to use. Typically, I just use actually one system, one clear system, and I reuse it over and over again because you can't really use the data that this Explorer uses other than positioning, and that's the only thing I really use it for. So this is what the co-op system looks like now. If you looked at it in game, and so I'm just going to clear everything out because we don't need these shipyards here, and I can add some other stuff. Now what I typically do, that's a light source there so you guys know. What I typically do is I'll start fresh on a board like this, and then I'll actually use the internet. Now it's the site that I go to is called Star Wars Combine, and I'll show you it here. And this is what I use to space out my systems, and you can see that it comes up pretty well, and the systems that I've made so far are pretty much centered around this type of thing. However, you do have to know, because we are using a larger system scale, and I'll get into that a little bit later about scale and how to do that. I typically place any type of asteroid field or minefield in the center of the system, and that's due because that if you go outside 250 kilometer radius around the center of the system, nothing will come up other than the dynamic asteroids, which once again I'll get into, so don't worry about that. So anyways, I'm going to work on quad here, so I'm just going to type that in here and see what it comes up with. Okay, so that's kind of the system I'm going for, and it's nice because it kind of has all the different types of planets here, and most of I find is canon to a respectable degree, but it's not a big deal if it's not exactly on, unless you guys are really stringent on that, but I haven't been thus far. Okay, so I have a big center in the middle, and then I have all these planets around. Okay, so I have a big gas giant here, and I can definitely work with this here. I'm going to close this just a little bit and try to get this around. So what I'm going to try to do is replicate this through knowing where to place them. Okay, so planets. I'll get into that right here. So I'm going to place the first planet right here. Looking at this, it looks like it's a Ristel, so it's cold and breathable. I'll click on the planet and see if it can give me any type of... Okay, so I'm going to make it a rocky type mountain type system. Planet. And this right here has all the radiuses of the planet. So this right here, this Earth, 25,000, has a radius of 25,000, and then diameter-wise, it's about 50 kilometers in diameter. So I want a rocky mountain type thing for this planet here, and I'll just nickname it so I kind of know what I'm doing here. Now this actually doesn't come up in the code, actually rather in this info card, so you're gonna have to do this later, but it kind of gives you indication of what's going on. Now for this, when you're just adding stuff, it doesn't really matter. You're gonna have to you can't use the code, all the code from the Freelancer Explorer, just because it doesn't work well, and it's not made for our mod. So you have to do a lot of modifications. So here is just putting the info down. For atmosphere range, you just have to make it a little bit larger. So 16,000 will make it larger. Depth zone size, make it 15,000. You can change that later, and it doesn't matter about that. And you just gotta make the ring size 1 larger. So I usually stick to 50,000 because that makes it larger, and it'll place the planet in for me. So right there. So there's my planet. That's gonna be that Ristel. And then what else do I gotta add here? So this is this one here. So it looks like a little planet, so I'm going to make it one of the rocky type planets. I'll place that right here. And it looks like I'll make it a large planet. So just so you guys know, these values right here are the planets that I've made larger, and then these ones, if you scroll down, are for smaller planets if you want those. And that's from the core of Freelancer. Now I think I'm gonna go for a crater type thing here, and I'm gonna make it 8,000 in diameter. So I'll make a quick atmosphere here. Put that in. Make sure it's larger. And we're good to go. So that's the next planet. And then just got here. So this is another, it looks like Earth type planet. This one here. So we're going to place that object right here. So you can see that this program is quite useful in making things. It allows you quite a bit of freedom and way to see it conceptually, what it's going to look like on the map. Okay, so we're going to make this one. This isn't decisions here. There's so many different planets. I think I'll use this one. This seems to be it's a good planet for me to use. Okay, and I'll stick that in. And what else we got here? Oh, I forgot to change I'll change that in. It doesn't matter. Looks like there's a type of space colony there, so I can add that a little bit later. And then we got a big gas giant here, so I'll kind of move this over a bit. What's great also too is you can move the things a little bit afterwards you're done. So I think I want this one a little bit more in the center here. And I'll place the big gas giant on the top corner here. Okay, and we have really big gas giants. Some of them are gigantic, like this one. I don't think I'll go for that size. I think I'll go for a yellow one at 55. And I'll just make the atmosphere large. Dim zone, same thing. And okay, I should put that one in. And then what else do we got? What other planets? We got Quad, I'm sure. Okay, yeah. Okay, so that's, oh, there's Quad down there. Okay, well, now what is it like? What kind of planet? So you can see this is quite useful and try to figure out what kind of planets you want to use. So I'm going to have to make this, well, I could put a planet right there. Now when I was talking about scale, you can actually change the size of the map through the code, and I'll do that in a sec, because I don't think this is a big enough space for me to place Kawat into. So what I'm going to use use this city for this one, and this one's a little bit bigger. So I'll make this 28. Damage zone size, I'll make 26 for now. Doesn't really matter. You can always change it later. 50. Okay, and that's in. Oh, that's the other planet. I'll put that there. And then there's one more, and that should be it for all the planets in this system. I'm not going to do all the code for all the docking sequences. I will do that probably next week, because I'll have the time to do that. It only takes about an hour. I do have an exam coming up, but I can spare to do it in little chunks. So, anyways, going back to this, I want one more here. This is the Daver Kawat place here. And we're going to make this one. Let's do this right here. Oh, that's good. And then get a little bit larger. Alright. So that placed it down. Now I just need a nice sun here. And placing that sun almost right in the center here. Probably right off here. Should be good. Now I've made big suns, so don't be afraid. Click the 2000 here, and then these mediums are all big suns, and also the large too. Just for the sake of this area, I'm going to place a large white right in the center there, and I know that the size is usually 40k in just got a brain fart here. 40 kilometers in radius, or 80 kilometers in diameter. So the corona, that's when you hear the entering corona type warning, so that one usually want larger. I'll make that 50. The damage zone size I'll make 45 for now. I can always change it. And the damage, the actual number, I always change afterwards. We'll just call it the Kuwait Sun for now. Alright. So that's what it looks like right now, and I'm just going to add this, and we'll save this, and I'll show you how to change this to scale. So, now that that's down, I can now go back to the files that I've been using, and I have a separate file. You need a separate file for Freelancer Explorer, and you have to store them in the mod folder. So, you know, when you extract a mod with Freelancer Mod Manager, it will put all the mods in here. Well, same thing. So when I upload the TAL file here, just make sure you unload it into the Freelancer mods directory right here, and that's why the Freelancer Explorer, that program that I was using, can pick it up. I had to change a number of things around because it doesn't work the same. It doesn't use TAL like we can. So I had to put all the files in just one directory so it can read it. Anyways, so going back to this scale, these numbered nav map scales matter in giving size to the system itself. A high number around 1, for example, will make quite a small system, while very large systems, for example, like Coruscant, if you look at it here, it's 0.3, and that's quite large. Now Kuwait is 0.2, so that is pretty large itself. I might need to change that. I'll change it to 0.19 and see how that works. See what more space it gives me to play with. And that's why you do that. For any type of system you put in, Key's already put them all in, but just so you guys know, you need to place a reference within the universe INE or it won't come up. And that will be the same thing with the bases as well. You see that all the bases must have a link in the universe INE. So just for your clarification here, for any type of base or any type of system, it must be documented within inside the universe INE. Okay, so looking at it here, we have our Kuwait placement or a reference inside right there. It won't be the same in the universe INE for the mod itself because we'll have a tab in front of here. But for this is the way you do it. Okay, so we're going to see how that shapes up the system here. Okay. Alright, let's space it out a little bit more. I'm just going to tinker a bit with this sizing and placing of things here. Just so you get it right. You kind of get a feel for what it'll look like after you've done a couple of these things before. I come back to this reference quite a bit after I get the sizing of things the way I want it. Also, this is only two-dimensional. You have to remember that as well. So you have to give height to it later on, and that's just really going in game and seeing what it looks like and giving it more height, for example, or depth. And I'll talk about that more later in testing it. So I think that is okay for now. I think this will look not too shabby. I usually do these show zones because that shows how large the actual planets are in relation to another. That seems to be okay for me. I might move out this diver Kuwait a bit and move out this gas giant. Maybe the top corner there. I might place an asteroid field around here later, but nothing pretty crazy. Alright, that looks pretty good to me. So I'm just going to save that, and then I'm going to show you how I add it. Alright, so that's all done. Now I'm going to go to the actual file I've been playing with, and that's this Kuwait. You'll see it comes up, and it's not actually nice. It's very, very, how do I word it? It doesn't code the way that we do it. It places the code in the order that you place it in. As you can see, I added the sun last, now it's last, but typically, the way I organize it anyways is I put that folder, that reference in the INE first. So now going to my tinkering file, you're going to see how I change things around. Okay, I'm going to use the same system here, so Quat. I'm going to bring that up. And what I also use as reference, and it's kind of hard to do it with a smaller screen here, is an old system I did to make sure I did everything right. And I typically use Coruscant because it's a... Where is all this DS stuff? I should have deleted this, but anyways. I use Coruscant as my model. Just the way I kind of know what I'm doing here. And then I'll pull up the last one here. Alright. So, start at the beginning here. So I have this pretty much right. The space color, you can give color to the space. It uses the red, blue, green scale. Local faction, that's the reputation you want to give the system. So for example, Coruscant belongs to the rebels, and we're going to make Kuat belong to the civilians. Now space, texture panels, you always keep it the same. They're kind of universe throughout. Now music is linked into your show you your music INE folder, which is in your audio. So music INE. So that's where all your music will be. If you scroll down a bit, you'll see it all. So I think Quat has its own, hopefully. Yes, it does. Okay, so we're just gonna put that music in, and that's where the reference is, so you guys know. And it's always space, danger, and battle. Battle is when you, for example, take a mission, it changes music. Danger is when something's hostile and is far away. And space is just the general sound within space. So we're going to put that into the, we'll close that. I'm going to put that right in here. So that's space, change this to danger, and change that to battle. And there you go. Now we have music for the system. Okay. Now for background, this is what you'll see. Now I made a standard star sphere, which all you have to do is pretty much copy and paste this over here, it already is there. Key already did that, but just to show you guys, like so. And then you get your stars that way. Now this is where all the tinkering really comes into play here. So you'll see that there's other stuff, like when you want to add asteroids, you add that under your asteroid field here. I'll get into that a little bit later, in another edition of this system building. And these are all your encounter parameters. This has to do with NPCs. Once again, it's another topic I'll talk about later. So now getting to the sun. So I will call the sun, so you have a light source and you actually have the object. And you can actually move them away from each other, which will look a little bit strange. But you typically place them right at the center of each other. So for example, you'll see that this sun and this light and source and the actual planet itself will be one and the same in the positioning. Now, where actually I did place them, what I got here? Yeah, where I did place them was a little bit different. If you scroll down a bit here, I placed the sun here. So I'm going to change this light source positioning here, because this was where I wanted it. So you see that I just typically use the Freelancer Explorer's data just for positioning's sake, and I just made the color really white. That was the big thing, and I'll change this Y value later on. Okay, and now I will do that same direction, make sure it's the same place, and so it's already there. And I'll actually change that because as you know, I changed the archetype. So you can usually just cut and paste this, and I'll place this large white sun right there, which we know is 40K, and then that will be the sun size. And then the atmosphere range, I typically like to organize this a little bit better, as you'll see here. So I'll place the object on top of the light source. I try to keep these very similar. This is a very similar setup throughout. That way it just keeps it easier to look at back later. So object, so IDs of info. Let's grab this stuff. I wonder we're short. I'm just going to pause this for 1 sec. Sorry, I just want to pause this for a sec. I gotta leave for a moment. Alright, and I'm back. Alright. So, it's placing the suns here. You see the ID names, ID info. That will come more important later. I think I've already explained to you guys what that is. So, didn't use the right archetype here. So, this archetype is what you actually see in-game, rather in the nav map. So it's important to get that right, and that's why I kind of use this as a base to make sure I'm hitting all the right points. So ambient color I use, archetype, so the atmosphere range. It's like this was a little bit larger than I wanted, so we'll make this 50k. Like I did there, and burn color actually found out doesn't really matter, to be quite honest, so I usually just take it out. I can take it out here too. I'm surprised I didn't actually put this. That's wrong. Make sure that I can see it. That's always good. And the light source, I have that pretty much the same way. Just making sure all the data is the same. I find it's a good way to error check too, and you use systems over again and you look at the data again. And so I want to make sure that the zone is properly placed, which will be there, and then my size of it to be similar to this, so like so. And I change relief time. Don't worry about that population additive, that's for NPCs. And there you go. Okay, so now planets. Now, sorry Key, I'm just going to delete your stuff here because you already took it out anyways. Okay. I'll leave those there just for the... And that stuff's important too. Okay. So I'm now just going to do a copy and paste of all the things that I put in here. So all the planets starts here, right? I put 6 planets in there, and now that's pretty much done. That's all I really needed it for, was positioning of things. And I put my planets in here, and put this as bases, just for now. Okay, now going through it, I'll start with planet Coruscant here. ID's names, I'll have to change this later. Spin, you can take out, there's no point. And also rotation, you don't really need to rotate the planet. Unless you want it on some type of funky angle, but I don't usually bother. Now for positioning, the way I also do it, I forgot, because as I was saying, the data doesn't come up right, you kind of have to know what map or what planets were what. And then I'll actually change the nickname to match it, so you know what it is for later. Hope that made sense. I'll just show you. So I want to go back to the concubine, or combine rather, concubine folder I had here. So placing that in. Alright, so I remember that this was that planet there. When I started like doom boom, and I think I hit this one in the gas, and then you just kind of remember what you placed in, and I'll name it that, because nickname doesn't really matter as long as it is matched throughout. So I'll call it Planet Bristol, and I'll name it that later on with the ID name, and you put ID info there as well later on, which is right there. Okay. Now, for the most part, that's the way I want it. Now for height, I'm going to make this quite high. I'm probably going to place it about 200k up. That should be good. You always got to play with that later on when you go into the system and you test it out and you look and you're like, okay, well, I think this one needs to go higher, this one needs to go a little bit lower. It's really just kind of a guessing game, so I start with very general values and then I'll go into it later and be a little more specific. Now to make sure that this always matches, or you're going to have random death zones, which is not good. So place that there, and the size, which make this a little bit bigger than the planet. The damage, I'll change to be, I always keep the damage levels consistent, which is, I think it's always 2000, I try to keep it at. Let's see here. Yeah, so okay, that damage level's there. Zone, you can actually change the shape of the death zones. For example, if you wanted a box, but keep it sphere because that's the way planets are. And making sure that this is all right. Okay, and then moving on to my next one. So I'll actually call this Planet Ristel here. I'll actually call it planets here, and then I'm weird with organization, so I kind of like to keep it like this, so you know what you're doing. You know what. So, for example, if you had like little space yards around something, I always keep it within the planet area, so you kind of know where everything is. And I'm also going to change this death zone nickname to Planet Ristel. Death. Now, next one is my next base, rather planet. I don't know what I called it actually. It's this one here. Actually, no, it's this one up here. Oh, Ristel's that. What should I call this one here? Oh yeah, this is Gortys. And then I'll call it Planet Gortys here. And then also call it here. I'm renaming things. So it's kind of a boring process going through it sometimes, but it's important that you make sure you know what you're doing. Oh yeah, burn color you can also take out of planets. They have no importance from what I've seen so far. And it's just, I try to take out as much redundant code as possible. Alright, spin rotate, you don't need those because spinning doesn't work, so there's no point. And because this is this planet here, I'll make this one about a negative 100k down. This is all in meters, by the way, so you guys know. Alright, make this one a little bit closer. Should be good, and ensure the damage stays consistent. Voila. Alright, next one. Right. This one is, I don't know, let's see here. Oh, this is the Earth one, so I think this one is the Gorvas. Name right, Gorvas. Yeah. Okay, and make sure I named it right. Okay, taking out the spin and rotate because you don't need that. Take out the burn color, you don't need that, and I put the ID info underneath the ID names. Once again. Sorry, this is kind of a boring point. You can probably fast forward a bit if you don't want to hear me ramble on. Right, so now I know that this is 200 up, this is 100 down. And this is a little bit larger planet, so I'm going to place it about 10k, not too much above the plane actually, just to give that kind of dimension to it. And this one too. Alright. And change the damage levels. See, you can, I forgot to change the size here, so it's important to remember you get all the sizes right. The atmosphere range as well. I'll have to change that to 19. Okay, next planet is this one here. This is the Razapan, apparently. Okay. I keep it lowercase capitals. It doesn't really actually matter from what I've seen, but it's sake of typing. Okay, ID info again. I'm going to change that later. Ambient color you don't need, as I was saying. And rotate and spin you don't need to. Now I'm going to want this one. Geez, where do I want this one? I want this one a little bit lower. Yeah, we'll apply for this one. 250 lower. You see, it's kind of just random, and you have to go in game once again, as I've said 1,000 times, to see what it really looks like. There's no really rhyme or reason to how you place the planets. Okay, and make sure this death damage stays the same. Alright. And almost getting done here. 2 more planets to go. I think this was, yeah, this was actually Planet Quad. And then take out this stuff. Put this stuff here. Alright, and I'm going to want this one probably. Let's place this one about 75k down. Let's make it 60 actually. Yeah, 60 should be good. And, yeah, make sure you always change the position of the death things. I always review it afterwards, but it's always good to make sure you keep these consistent. Alright, and change that there. And one more planet here. This is the, oh yeah, this one here, Daver Quad. So I'll call that planet Daver Quad here. Alright. And that one, because I placed this one quite low. And I already placed this one low as well. I'm going to place this one a little bit higher. I'm going to place it about 150k, actually 125k up, I'm thinking. Alright, and take out this junk here. Take out this here. Place that there. And the burn color can go. Got that up here. Okay. And okay, so it looks like I am pretty much done the planets. Change that too. You see that you kind of miss things every once in a while, so it's always good to go over it again. Alright, so that's down, 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 down. Okay, planets look like they're done to me. Now I'll get to show you how I put the bases together. I might actually have to move this nexus bit because I think I have the sun there. So I'm just going to put this 100k up. We should be good there. Sorry, key. Just got to move that for a bit. Alright. So I'm going to save that. And that should be good. Now, what you can do, which is great. Oh, that's what I forgot. The atmosphere zones. I knew I forgot something. Yeah, what I did to a lot of the planets is I added these atmosphere zones, which I'll show you exactly what they entail. All right. So what they are is a zone where I found that different areas you can use different effects depending on if you're in that zone or not. So what I typically do is I added a little atmosphere thing, and also it changes the music at that point too. So once you go into the atmosphere, you'll actually hear that sound. So I'll change that, and So make sure you have all that. And this is the effects that you get, and this is the amount of particles that you can put in. And this is, I don't know what sort actually means, to be honest. And I'm just going to change the name here. There you go. So now I have a little atmosphere effect in that little area. It only takes 2 extra seconds to re-add them. And I find it makes the planets pretty cool when you get in close. Changes the entire music of it all, and yeah, it's neat effects. Okay, 9,000. I match it usually to the atmosphere. So, and I just keep on using the same value, just changing what I need to change here. It's not the most interesting tutorial, but you generally see how long it takes to actually do something and how I do it. Yeah, sorry if you're bored out of your skull right now. Okay, 16,000. Okay, almost done. Done now. Oh, I have to change that too. Was that 28? And then this one is 26. Alright, that should be good. Oh, I forgot to change the position here. Okay. This is in. I can save it. What else I want to do right now, while I get the chance, is put all the ID names in. You don't have to worry about the info. I usually just leave it until I'm done for 1. So 1 is just kind of a blank card. Okay, almost done here. And yeah, that should be good. Okay, I'm going to put the names in there. Now, I typically go to the last system I did, so that was Endor for me. And I just keep on following the numbers that I used. I think the last bit of numbers that I used was right around here. We're going to see now. Yeah, that's pretty much done. Okay. And I'm just going to edit that now. So let's see here. Now I just typically will go like that and go through it all. Okay. Marv did that, so that's good. Alright, so looks like that's almost free. Okay, so it looks like 75 is free. So we're going to call this one planets. Going back to it. So our first planet, we'll actually call the first one the Sun, so Quat Sun. Okay. And I'll put that number in there. So that's what you'll see in game now. It's called Quat Sun. And next, I always make sure that it has been used before. You get some. If it has been used, you get some weird names, places that you didn't want. Let's call it just Ristel. I think I just like using the names. I forget how I do it. I might have to change it later on, but I think I just use the names rather than the planets. So, okay, so we'll call it Ristel for now. Oops. And then you just cut and paste the number in, like so. And this one is called here. Nothing there, and that one's Goravas. It's kind of a boring part again, so you can fast forward it if you guys get the point now how you do this. Alright, looks like that is all in. So now we have all those numbers in. Okay, I'll save this, and what I like to do afterwards is that I place that file that I've been editing back into that Freelancer Explorer file. So I was playing with Quad here, and then I will go back to my Freelancer Explorer file and place that file back in. I'll just copy over it. And also, because I did some editing with the info cards, I like to I'll copy those over too, just so I get the names right down. Right, that goes. Okay, now when I bring up the Freelancer Explorer, it should bring up Quad with all those planets names. And, oh, I didn't. Oh, there it is. So there you go. You can see all the names now. So it's kind of cool. So that's where I placed everything. Now I'll start putting shipyards. I'll just do one shipyard and show you how I do that. I'm going to place it by Quad, which I think is down here. Okay, so I'm kind of lazy in the sense where I use Aldebaran's old shipyards files, or rather data. I just changed the positioning of it. I'll go through how I do that. So what I do is I have old 1.68 data here, and I'm just going to use the Kawat shipyard's data here. So actually I'm going to stop the video at this point, so people who already know how to do systems and want to know how to do the bases will see this point here. So I'm just going to stop it here, and I'll be back in a sec.